Hey guys, welcome back. I thought it would be some easy content, interesting, to show you guys a little bit about how my Stepmania setup works in 2022. Maybe this will give you guys some ideas for your home setups, or you can give me some ideas of cool things that you're doing in your house. And with that, let's just jump right into it. So of course, when we're talking about ITG, we have to start by talking about the dedicab. Let me go boot it up. So this is a dedicab that I bought off of Craigslist in Alabama, and it was many, many years ago. This is my second dedicab. The first one I sold. The first one was an Andamiro one, and this one is a Roxor cab. I've done a lot of work to it, but you can't really see it. Everything is pretty much stock, or has been restored to stock. The biggest change is the computer inside was replaced, and it's now running TJ's system image. Now, one of the biggest changes that I've made to it from a stock dedicab is that I've added this underglow to the bottom of the pads. This was just like an LED kit I got off of Amazon for like 20 bucks, and I just slapped it underneath, and I kind of did a poor job of it. I think if I was doing it again today, I would do it a lot better. The panels themselves have LEDs inside instead of the normal cathode tubes. It looks a little different than stock, where it would be white showing through, and here I have like red and blue showing through. So streaming wise, on this setup, I have a microphone on the ceiling, which is a Blue Yeti. I also have a webcam on the ceiling for a top-down shot of my feet, and that is just a Logitech C920. And there's one more camera that's hidden right here in the coin slot, which gives you a lower shot of my legs. So back here in the cabinet, I have a HDMI to VGA adapter and a cable coming through. And that cable goes here to my game capture PC. And I have an Elgato HD60S. And that's what I use for capturing the game. There's OBS. So now let's take a look at my more modern setup. Now this is the PC that I get the game capture for the dedicab on. It's also another ITG setup. So let's talk about the computer first. So I have two monitors. One is just like a whatever 32-inch monitor that I had laying around. It's 60 hertz. I tilt it sideways just so it fits a little bit easier in here. I use a tool called Power Toys, which allows me to snap windows into this monitor a little bit easier. So my normal streaming system might look like this. This is why the Power Toy window snapping thing is nice, because I can just grab a window and snap it to one of these blocks, and I don't have to worry about resizing it perfectly. Now, I will put the specs for this PC for anyone who wants to see it. The gist of it is, it's not super new, but it was overpowered for Stepmania. But it's not super overpowered if you think about all the other stuff I'm doing with it, like, recording and streaming and running all this weird FSR software at the same time. This monitor is pretty new. It's a Gigabyte M32Q, I think. This one I had replacing some old 32-inch gaming monitors from LG. Those are like the LG 350 ones. They're 144 hertz. Those are also great for ITG. But they have a lot of ghosting, so just visually it doesn't look the best. This doesn't have as much ghosting, but it is an LCD monitor, so there is some. But overall, I'm very happy with this monitor, and I got a pretty good deal on it. So I do have a webcam up here. That's a C920, again, one of those Logitech ones. They're really not the best webcams, but if you just add a ton of light to your scene, they're like half decent. But you'll notice that when you look at the lights in these pads, they look all blown out. They actually appear like white. I think the camera doesn't have enough dynamic range to pick up the different colors in the brightness. So I'll try to put some video of what the pad lights look like in a bit when I talk about the pads. I get really annoyed by having like big bright lights like in my eyes. So I added these two lights back here. They're actually just behind the monitors on the back of the stand pointing up. And the idea was that I wanted light bouncing off of the drop ceiling tiles. Instead of like having like normal streamer lights that would be up in my eyes all the time would just drive me nuts. So this was a better compromise. But it's not really what you're supposed to do with lighting. By doing it this way, the lighting is extremely like soft. Now one thing I had to do, because I have these lights that are just bouncing up directly where the webcam is, I was having this light bleed problem. And you can see what it looks like if I remove this little piece. So what I did is I just made a little like lens hood out of Gorilla Tape, and I just taped it on there. And it seems to handle it pretty well. Now my microphone here is a Samsung G-Track Pro. It's essentially the exact same thing as the Blue Yeti, and it just happened to be on sale at the time. Originally, I did use the microphone that was up there, but when I wanted to like talk to people on stream, it was a little awkward having to like turn and go over there. In general, like my audio setup on stream is not that good. There are other people who do it a lot better than I do. Again, I think the best way to do it is like a dynamic mic that will kind of like cancel out everything other than coming from where my head is going to be. But it takes a lot more work to get something like that going. And I already have enough like, you know, weird gizmos I have to set up for my stream, like getting the focus and white balance set on all my webcams. So using a condenser mic and just picking up the game audio and my audio at the same time is just like a convenience, and it's like good enough. Now, one more thing I'll point out is that I have a sound bar. It's back here. So this is a Bose sound bar, and this is a subwoofer that goes along with it. This subwoofer is technically wireless, but it just needs power, and then it communicates to the soundbar through some radio frequency. I'm using optical audio directly to the PC. It works very well. The sound is awesome, and it's way better than the powered monoprice speakers I had here before. So I really actually recommend a soundbar setup if you can get one cheap enough. It seems to work fine. And yeah, you know, I had to sync things, but you got to sync any setup that you have. So I don't think the extra audio latency was enough of a problem for me. Now, this desk is something that I got at Costco. It was on sale. It was pretty, I think it was like $150 or something. And it's on these big beefy casters. So technically, I could move this around if I wanted to, but there's a zillion wires coming, you know, all around the room into this thing. So I'm not normally doing that, but it's really nice to have that option if I wanted it. It's kind of funny, but if you think about it, I mean, this, you know, this weird bar height desk, the monitors, the PC, and the sound bar, it's all the parts of a cabinet, of an ITG cab. So, you know, if you can't buy an ITG dedicab, you can certainly build this. It's just a standing desk and a computer. Let's talk about the pads. So, this is my first FSR pad. I have a whole video on how I made this. The gist of it is, I got a whole DDR machine from a local arcade for pretty cheap, parted out the cabinet. I sold a pad to a friend of mine, and then I kept this one and I put FSRs into it. I still have all of the guts, all of the arcade sensors. If I wanted to restore it back to the way it was, I could do that. I'm really happy with this. This was my first foray into FSRs. This thing is built like a tank. I really like it. I have all my friends use this because, you know, this is like my secondary FSR setup now if I don't want people really messing around with mine, which is typically that one. The only downside with this pad is the lights. The accent lights are not as bright and vibrant as this pad. So I'd like to come back at some point and redo the lighting here. The one good thing about this, the lighting on this pad, is the underglow is super bright. I really like it. It looks like a freaking UFO. The active light inside the panels is excellent. It's a very clean white LED, and I really like that a lot. But the accent light leaves a lot to be desired, and the color cannot be changed from the software that I have on the computer. So yeah, but that's the only downside. And of course, it's a DDR bar, and as a taller guy, a DDR bar is just terrible. So I really, really do not like using the bar here. Other than that, it's an awesome pad. Okay, so most of you should know the deal with this pad. This is my mostly homemade custom FSR pad. This is 8 switch frames and 1 center panel support off of a real arcade machine. It has a prototype SMX bar that Kyle Ward sent me, and the base is just a big plate of steel that I had a guy weld up and put the bar on. There's a whole video series of me making this pad. If you haven't seen it, I recommend checking out a few of those videos. Now I'll show the webcam and my cell phone. My cell phone doesn't even do a perfect job of showing the colors, but the webcam does a much worse job. So I'll kind of show you the difference between how they actually look in real life versus what they show on stream. So that was a little overview of some of the lighting profiles that I have. It's not super customizable. I have to pick a pre-made and pre-coded profile, and each one of the panels is essentially one LED. That's what the software thinks it is. So I can't do any effects where like I go around in a circle or pulsing one side versus another. It's all one LED, so I can just turn it on and off, and I can change the color. My software doesn't even support like the brightness of these, so they're all at max brightness. That's the only control that I have. But honestly, I'm very happy with it. I really like how it's so simple. Every stream that I do, I can pick a new color profile, and it just makes it very easy to get going and get set up. And it also just adds a little bit of interest to the stream I had this week versus the one next week. Sorry about this, but I'm going to be lazy and record my screen with the camera. This is how I change the color profiles. For anyone who hasn't seen this, this is Sujit's FSR web UI. You can change all the thresholds here. I have one of these for each one of the pads. So if I want to use both pads, then I have to spin up 2 instances of this. You don't need the web UI running to use the pads, by the way, but you do need it to set the thresholds. If I press on the up arrow here, once it gets beyond this little black line, it will trigger and send the input to the game. That's essentially how his software works. It's pretty simple. It's really nice and easy to get going. What I did is I added a tab here called DOM Special Config, and in here I can select the lighting profile. So if I wanted to go from, let's say, going from green to black, in black meaning that the light is off, then you can see now the arrows have turned green, and I have to refresh this each time, but I have the colors from the profile will actually show here in the web UI as well. And you can see like when I trigger that, it goes black in the background. So let's change another color. We can do, let's do Italy, the Italian one. And then you can see it's the up and down arrows are white, left is green, and right is red. And then when you press them, they turn blue. So that's the gist of how colors work and how I select them. If you see me doing that on stream, I'm just going here and choosing a different color profile, and then probably refreshing this widget. It really is cool having your ITG on a normal computer setup. I know a lot of you young people, you probably have played ITG like that your entire life. For boomers like me who have grown up on a dedicab or an arcade machine, it is really nice just having a whole computer here. If you want to pull up Twitch or look up a video, I often will pull up Spotify during my streams, or just it's a computer, so you can do anything you want here. And you have a keyboard and mouse, and it's like all available to you. So it's a huge convenience having a setup like this. And I do love the arcade machine, but while that is also a computer, it's a lot more difficult to get out of the game and get into a web browser and all that stuff. So something to think about if you're deciding between one or the other. The FSR pad we were just looking at is right over to my right. This is the room over to the left. And I just want to show, I have this little rack here of just like crap for playing dance games. So when you see me on stream and I'm like walking off to grab something, it's from here. So I have like, my sombrero and my cowboy hats and stuff like that all hanging here. But I also have like, a bunch of the fake fit kicks that I use. Gloves for when I used to play with the bar. All my socks are here for ITG. This is one brand I get from Amazon. I really like them. I also have some sport drink stuff with electrolytes. I have some Pocari Sweat and Gatorade, paper towels, Windex. This is like watered down with a lot of water, by the way. You should be very careful when you're using like solvents on plastic panels like polycarbonate. I wouldn't say never use them, but water it down and get it off as fast as you can. Don't leave it on there. Ever since I started playing no bar, sweat has been more and more of a problem. So I remember the first time I played like a stamina no bar set, I looked down at the pads and there was just drops of sweat like everywhere. I was like a shaggy dog, like shaking and getting all of my sweat everywhere. So it's kind of gross to have to deal with that much sweat after I'm done playing. But the bigger problem is that if it drops on the center panel, it makes it like just terrible. If I'm doing a marathon or something and sweat gets on there, it really like makes it a way more sticky than it normally would be. So anyways, I have some towels. So these, I have like a little system here. The yellow towels are for the pad. If I have to put polish or clean some baby powder off, I use the yellow ones. And then these little white ones are for me. They're like, for people. I also have a bucket of pad parts that I might need at just any moment. So in here, this is where I have my tape, my box of sensors, all that stuff. The last interesting thing down here is this light. This is like one of my old flea market finds. It's a cool Shoutout DJ light. I'll go set it up real quick and I'll show you what it does. But I'm always on the lookout for like weird, cool DJ lights that I can just throw in the background of my stream, just to make it a little bit more fun. It's sound activated, so I don't have to do anything. I just have to set it to the right sensitivity, and it does its thing. And lastly, this is like my desk. So this is where like I work, but it's right next to my ITG setup, and it has my older computer here that I edit all my videos on. So normally when I'm making a video, I have the camera right up here in this ring light, and I just sit down here and record it. This is a Groove Coaster, if you've ever seen that game. It's a lot of fun, but I barely ever use it. So it's the one thing I've had it on my list to like set it up to make it easy to stream, and maybe I would use it a little bit more. But the reason that I mentioned this desk is that this was going to be my setup for the travel pad. So what I was going to do is just roll this chair out of the way, and then place down my travel pad here, and then use these monitors to play ITG on like a third setup. These are the old LG 32-inch monitors that I was talking about. They're fine for ITG. I used them for, more than a year. I know the computer can support it. The biggest issue right now is that they would be pretty low. This isn't a standing desk or anything, so it might be a little uncomfortable to play here. But I haven't done that yet. That's like another thing. I would like to set this system up for streaming, and then I could stream Groove Coaster. I could have the travel pad set up here. I just haven't been motivated enough to do that yet. So it's, it's potentially a lot of setups here. I think I could make, I have the dedicab, which is 2 pads. I have 2 FSR pads, and then I have the third travel pad. If I took all these monitors and if I split all the pads, I could have 5 ITG setups running at once, which is crazy. But, maybe someday I'll do a tournament or something, and that would be a lot of fun. Do like a mini stamina con in my house. But really, guys, that's it. That's all I had to show you today. I don't even know what this really was. I was just thinking to myself that like I have kind of like a unique setup that only probably a handful of people have. I have like a standard stock arcade setup. I have new FSR stuff. Thought this might be helpful for people out there to get a little bit of an idea of what's out there and what they might want to have at their house or things they might want to try. So hopefully you found that interesting, and I'll see you guys next time.